Hello fellow blade makers and blade enthusiasts, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie, and today we're going to be looking at this, which is something I've just finished completing after starting a couple of years or so ago. In fact, no, possibly more than that, and it's just simply a cane knife. Now I'll go over how it was constructed, what it's made of, what processes it went through, all of that stuff in the first part. And in the second part of the video, we'll actually have the test cutting. So I will be testing it on various things I can find and seeing how sharp it is, how well it holds up, and just in general how durable and useful it is. So, the blade here is actually repurposed from an old saw blade. And basically it's got the same flex temper. I decided not to try and re-temper it into something harder because it seems it's flexible, as you can see, but it is a bit on the soft side for my liking. It doesn't quite seem like it would hold quite as good an edge on the blade. However, in terms of what I did to try and do, well, the same thing to another blade, I actually tried to make a blade harder, and that's what happened on this one. And the reason why it's so short, this was actually supposed to be a machete, and it was going to have a handle from about here to here. And what happened was, it snapped. All of this sort of bubbling, that shows just where it went horribly wrong. If you look along it like this, let me see. You can tell it's horribly warped in the process of trying to give it a better temper. So in terms of the actual sort of heat treating and all of that, I decided not to bother with this one, so I didn't make the same mistake as I did in the past. It's too thin a blade to do it on properly, and I'm not very good at heat treating at the moment. Now of course you'll see it's quite rusty on this side. It looks much better on this side. The reason I didn't polish both sides was, funnily enough, the angle grinder decided it wanted to catch fire in the middle of trying to do some grinding, so it's going to have to stay like that, or I'll have to use some fine grit sandpaper on it manually. And I've kept the saw blades, the actual teeth were going all the way along, they would have gone past here, because this was somewhere closer to the handle part, but getting around midway along the saw blade. So it had some width, but it wasn't too chunky. I'll use the chunkiest bit for another project at some point. Now, in terms of how it's constructed, first off I'll go on about the edge just as a last part. I used a bench grinder on it, so it's very likely to have a concave or hollow ground edge. So it's basically, instead of being like this, let's see if I can get, there we are, instead of being like this, or having a convex edge like an axe blade, it's got a concave edge, which kind of, it's got that sort of curving. It's hard to do with my hands inwards like that. And it means it can end up going sharper, but it's usually not as durable. It's still a fairly useful edge, nonetheless. Now, in terms of the handle construction now, these are not rivets. They are actually parts of a nail, because it turns out with the holes I'd made previously, or tried to make, they didn't fit the types of rivet sizes that I have. So I just used a nail, cut parts off, reinserted it, and that's that. It's been glued together, so it's not using epoxy, which I should have done. It's actually using superglue. You'll probably see a bit leaking out here and out of there, even bits out there. But and you can see the nail head there. But that's that sort of full tank construction. If you look around here, this shows just where it goes back to, and also shows it much more snugly along this edge. Obviously quite rough cut with a saw, but it'll do. And the actual handle itself is made of just some scrap wood I found lying around. I don't know what type of wood it is, but it's definitely a softwood. And in terms of the actual design of the handle, I was using a chisel and a just ordinary bit of sandpaper by hand. So I've ended up with this sort of design. I decided to make it quite significant on the dip, so it stays in the hand more securely. It's got a nice bit of smoothness. It's rather rounded, as you can see around back here, and on the front here. So that was a lot of rough sanding and carving and shaping. A few problems here around this knot in the wood, but nothing too difficult. Might actually, if I can get that knot sorted, I might make a bit of a dip there for the index finger to go onto, just for a more secure grip. But either way, it is still a pretty secure grip, and it's very comfortable in the hand. It doesn't feel it discomforting or awkward in any way, shape or form. And with the way the whole item's turned out, without any bends or any deformation or anything like that, it means that it's very easy to align the edge. It's very secure and straight in the grip, because some items, even supposedly professional swords I've had in the past, had slight off angles in their blades and the handles and things, and it ended up being quite askew and you were turning awkwardly every time you cut, whereas this is pretty much perfectly straight. So let's get to the cutting, shall we? Let's show you the handling. It's not bad in the fingers. Yeah, handles very nicely. The only slowness is from myself, but this, you've got to watch out for air resistance like that, but as long as you get the edge alignment correct, it's very nice indeed. Got reasonable reach as well. I mean, for a weapon I'd probably want it this long, but for a tool it's supposed to be, this is good. Oh. God, bloody sun in my eyes, but cutting power's good. When I actually hit. At least I can bloody see. Yeah, it's cutting quite well. I like the leverage, it's not cutting short like here. It's got this, for the same weight of the blade, it's got more force to it. Lovely. There we are. Yeah. See how well it holds up against this. It's going to be a much tougher test. No wobbles, good. Ah, very good. No walls or anything like that. Nice.